When learning about classical music, you would have noticed that there is an emphasis on the ideas of structure and balance. In this project, you will write a balanced, well-structured 16-bar melody with an Alberti bass accompaniment. In order to create a sense of balance, we will break our 16-bar composition into 4 phrases of 4 bars each. The first 2 phrases will make up section A, while the second 2 phrases will make up section B. You should know that this structure is called binary form. When writing a melody, we need to consider 3 other elements of music: pitch, rhythm, and harmony. Let's begin by looking at harmony. When harmonizing the scale, we learned that we have 3 primary triads and 4 secondary triads. Our primary triads each have a specific function. Chord 1 has tonic function, which gives us a sense of rest or resolution. Chord 4 has subdominant function, which gives us a sense of movement or instability. And chord 5 has dominant function, which gives us a sense of tension or urgency. Each of these chords also has a secondary substitute. Chord 6 has tonic function, as this chord closely resembles chord 1. Chord 2 has subdominant function, as these chords also contain 2 common notes. Chord 7 has dominant function and can be used to substitute chord 5. Chord 3 can be a little tricky. It has 2 notes in common with chord 1 and 2 notes in common with chord 5, so it can sound like it has tonic function or dominant function depending on the context you use it in. If you choose to use this chord, use your ears and your musical judgment to make sure it contributes to your progression in the way you want it to. In these examples, I have shown all Roman numerals as if I were working in a major key. The Roman numerals would be different if I were working in a minor key, but the functions and substitutes remain exactly the same. If we return to the structure we set up at the beginning of this example, we can now plot the harmonic structure of our composition into our formal structure. We should always begin each phrase with our tonic chord, as this establishes our key and gives us a sense of home or stability. I have decided to write my melody in a major key, so we'll write the correct Roman numerals for a major key. If you choose to write your melody in a minor key, make sure you adjust your Roman numerals accordingly. You should also end each section with the tonic, as this will give a sense of resolution or closure. We can emphasize or heighten this closure by preceding the tonic chord with a subdominant or dominant chord. The 2 final chords of a phrase create a cadence. Chord 5 to chord 1 create a perfect cadence, while chords 4 to chord 1 create a plagal cadence. A perfect cadence gives a stronger sense of closure, but both of these cadences are appropriate to use at the end of a section of a composition. The ends of the first and third phrases come in the middle of a section of the piece, so it would not make sense to end these with complete cadences. Here, it's better to use imperfect cadences, which are made up of chords 1 or chord 4, resolving to chord 5. Once we have plotted our starting chords and cadences into our formal structure, we can add additional chords to create a functional harmonic progression. Once you get to know what each of these chords sounds like in relation to one another, you will be able to write a well-structured functional harmonic progression purely theoretically. But as you begin this journey, it's important that you listen to your progression and experiment with various options. GarageBand on iPad or iPhone offers smart instruments that can be very helpful in this regard. Once our harmonic progression is complete, we need to consider our rhythmic design. Again, as we are writing in a classical style, we want to create a sense of balance and structure. To achieve this, we need to create a rhythmic design that gives a sense of unity and diversity. Once you have decided on a time signature and established a few rhythmic features, you can use and vary these throughout the composition. You don't want to include too many ideas, but rather elaborate on a few simple ideas. This piece is in binary form, so there should be a difference between the A and B sections, but they should still sound like they belong to the same piece. Again, your ears and your musicality are essential tools that you will need to use. Clap your rhythm as you write it to make sure it works orally. Once you have a harmonic progression and balanced rhythmic design, you can choose a key and begin assigning pitches to each note value. Here, the chords you have written will guide which notes you use. You should maintain the harmonic structure by using notes that belong to the chord you have written, but don't be afraid to add non-chordal notes to give your melody more interest and movement. An important feature to consider here is melodic contour. This refers to how the melody rises and falls. Consider the shape of the melody you are creating and ensure that there is a sense of balance and flow. As you would have discovered while learning about the classical era, one of the major differences between Baroque and classical music is the shift from a polyphonic texture to a homophonic texture. Now that we have a melody, we can create an accompaniment for it using the chords we set out in our harmonic structure. A popular accompaniment figure used during the classical era was the Alberti bass. To write an Alberti bass accompaniment, we will split the notes of a triad, playing the lowest note, the highest note, the middle note, then returning to the highest note. These notes can be written on the stave as quavers. The next chord in my harmonic progression is chord 6. Rather than moving this whole figure down to begin on the 6th degree of the scale, I'm going to write this chord in an inversion so that I have as many common or adjacent notes between the two chords as possible. Using inverted chords rather than jumping up and down creates a smoother, more contained accompaniment figure that is easier to play and does not detract from the melody. Finally, you should add tempo, dynamic, character, and articulation markings that support the classical style of this piece. To present this section of your project, you will need to submit a MuseScore or Sibelius file containing the following elements: a 16-bar melody typed in the treble clef stave of a piano score, an Alberti bass accompaniment typed in the bass clef stave of a piano score, phrase markings that show the structure of your composition, Roman numerals to indicate which chords are used in your harmonic progression, inversion symbols to show how you have manipulated the chords to create an effective accompaniment, and tempo, dynamic, character, and articulation markings to support the classical style of the piece. This is what a complete project should look and sound like.